Basic Control, baby. Today we're gonna get in your minds. We're gonna get in real deep.
Welcome to Basic Control, the show where we effectively break down various forms of media into relatable context, basically giving the control back to the viewers. My name is Aaron Ray, aka The Boss Rating on social media. Feel free to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and ArtStation. As for my co-host, Adrian, where can the people find you?
At 80K Lives, hey, bouncing off the fucking airwaves.
Follow us on Facebook at Poppy Guys Attack. Subscribe to us on YouTube at PG Attack. Download and stream on Audio Mac and SoundCloud, or email us at pgattack@gmail.com. Any questions, comments, hypotheticals, or advice you would like to address on the show. First, we'll get into our icebreakers, our coverage and opinions on current events, moving then into our main topic today being, why aren't you working? And finally spilling out into the hypothetical section where we let loose, crack open our creative sides, and dig into the rabbit hole. How are you doing, my man?
I'm alright, man. I feel like the higher the higher I go on this ladder, the more stressed I become.
Oh yeah, the
I think it's very
good old stress ladder. I think that's Jacob's ladder. Or that's like a whole other thing.
It's trippy, man. It's a ladder, and either way you gotta fucking climb it. And the shit is pretty weird. I went into a affiliated signing with some other manager the other day for artists, and I don't know, just added weight. That's all.
Okay. Yeah. When I was in college, they had this assignment for I think it was called cognitive development for artists, and basically we had to draw our own tombstones, and on our tombstones we had to write it's sort of almost like a haiku, but it's a specifically I can't remember the exact thing, but in a nutshell it's like a haiku. We had to write the haiku, and we have to make our tombstone look sort of like a representation of how we died. And on mine, maybe I can add a picture, I don't know, but so people can see, but or I don't even, do I still have it? Point is, mine is a ladder, is a whole bunch of cartoon characters climbing this ladder, but the ladder sort of leads to nothing. And and my haiku was he tried, and so I find that kind of interesting that you're going up this ladder where it sort of parallels my tombstone.
Yeah, what an asshole, man. I feel it, man, and it's weird because I feel like we, in a strange way, get to kind of be the maybe not opposites, but kind of the opposite spectrum of each other in that way. And for you, I think we can understand that because we're both kind of oh, hey, here's my hand, I got you. And you're like, hey, here's my hand, I got you, don't fall, bro. And we're like, where are we going anyway? Where the fuck are we going anyway? What does it all mean?
We ain't going nowhere. But recently, I don't know if anybody likes Poppy Guys Attack on Facebook.com. Please go like that, because we need some likes. We've been around for a long time, but I haven't really been pushing for likes and things like that, but we've always had content on the page, or rather shared content on the page. And a lot of the content right now is a lot of horror movies. There's a lot of horror movie trailers coming out. So you got Stephen King adaptations everywhere. And I recently saw it, and I thought it was oh, all right, this is a fantastic movie. It's not perfect or anything like that, but it's certainly a fantastic movie. It's a step ahead, and it makes me feel positive about the shape of where horror is going at. Because I seen a movie It Follows, and I watched Stranger Things, which Stranger Things isn't so much scary, but it just it harkens back to that time, that 80s time, and so does It Follows, because the soundtrack is very down on both of those. So it is sort of in the same vein where it's set in the 80s, it feels a certain way, and the horror is that it actually works, that feel actually works. So a lot of people want to adapt more Stephen King. So you have two Stephen King films coming out. One is Gerald's Game, and the other is 1922. you also have the movie Flatliners, not a Stephen King thing, but it is a remake of an old film with, what was it? Who's in the original Flatliners? Was that, I want to say, either Ethan Hawke or Jude Law. Basically, in 1922 and these other trailers that I've seen, I'm starting to feel like horror is getting a lot more way more sophisticated than it used to be.
Psychological horrors and stuff like that.
Well, I think the look and the production value is going up, where like we had like a whole spurt of these terrible films. I mean, and I know it's all subjective, but like they weren't necessarily scary. Like when I watch Insidious or when I watch The Conjuring and things like that, and what was that one? REC and some of these other ones like Paranormal Activity. I don't get anything from that. I don't get anything from movies like The Darkness or something like that. Like these movies, for the last about 5-6 years, there hasn't been a good horror movie out there. There's been a lot of low-key horror movies that come out, or horror thrillers, and I think that's the new wave to go. Like trying to go full horror or something like that, it's not really working out. We need figures. Yeah. We need
that makes sense.
We need the new Freddy Kruegers. That's why I say Pennywise, and having an icon like that, or having a concept that is far more than just I unfriended somebody and now I'm getting killed by this faceless ghost.
Now they're trying to kill me. Yeah.
I was just gonna say it's Kiefer Sutherland. It's not Jude Law.
Oh wow!
In the original one, it had Oliver Platt, Kevin Bacon, Julia Roberts in the original, and Kiefer Sutherland. Yeah.
That sounds like the early 2000s horror movie. It just sounds like
1990 was the original.
Yeah, well, it sounds like that time. Kiefer Sutherland, fucking man.
It's also a Joel Schumacher film, if you get the idea of where. So yeah, but yeah, go ahead.
But I kind of noticed, sort of that segment vibe where it's like every 10 or 11 years there's that cycle, and you kind of see science fiction take over, and like now we got the Halloweens coming back, and like you said, they're kind of becoming more sophisticated in a way that they tell these slasher or these what used to be not shock horror films, but like what used to be very visceral horror films. They're finding another way to kind of bring in that psychological or that thriller edge to it, which is interesting. The only thing is, it bothers me, and we talked about this before, because of that whole 80s babies taking over and getting nostalgic thing, and you kind of, I get it, you can go to a time where there's no cell phones, there's less distractions, and the horror can stand out. That makes sense setting wise. But I feel like these things become more or less, they don't become so much horror films, they just become thriller films. It's not so much scary.
I think the thriller aspect is taking more the horror thing, because I mean, we've seen movies where like the gore and like the gross out and type of films, like where they call it torture porn. So basically, your whole concept of your movie, say something like the Green Inferno, where you'll take all these college, these these faceless college students, you'll take them overseas and you'll start picking them apart, pulling out their brains or something like that, or raping them or something, and that's supposed to, oh my god, that's so scary. I mean, it's a scary concept in real life, but when you show it, you have to have some nuance to it. It has to be portrayed in a certain way, and I think the idea of the thriller is a lot more stronger than horror aspect of it, and I think they're leaning more on that and having this more sophisticated thriller suspense sort of vibe to it. Like a couple years ago, I think last year or so, they came out with that film Don't Breathe, which it's technically a horror movie. It has all the makings of a horror movie. You have a figure, and you have these faceless teenagers that you can kill off. But you have this thriller aspect because it's not as simple as that. There's a concept to it. There's also a film, because the guy is blind, but there's also a concept, another one called Hush. And most people can watch Hush on Netflix. Hush is basically the inversion of that, where instead of the killer being blind or whatever, the victim is deaf. So she's being stalked or tortured by this guy who she cannot hear coming, and so she's deaf, running around in the house. And I mean, for me, it kind of bothered me because like she honestly, like, he was just playing with her. He could have been killed her, but like, it's a movie, so they stretched it out to a point where I don't want to spoil what happens, but let's just say like he should have just killed her when he had a chance. but like, it's an inversion of that. It's more sophisticated. It's a high concept horror film. So the idea of a high concept horror film it's appealing to me. It's not something like Crimson Peak, which is like, all right, boo hoo, it's a ghost. Okay, so and what? Like, what does your ghost want? What's your concept here? So when I look at a movie like 1922, and please watch these trailers, Gerald's Game in 1922. Because I think even if the book, like I said, it is not necessarily a good book, or a good miniseries, but people would have something attached to it. There's something about the concept of that works. And so if you can find like a good filmmaker who can make it look dank and make it look cool, like it works. Like I said, 1922, Gerald's Game, Flatliners, a lot of these, they're bringing back Murder on the Orient Express as well. So like, I'm like, son, like, if you have like the power to turn these old thrillers into something that can work and it looks good, like it has that Netflix vibe to it, where you're like, okay, cool. I think that's all good.
I like that. I want to see more of it. I'm just glad to see, because those kind of things make an emergence, then magic will start to make an emergence. Yeah. So
I want to see a magic horror film. There is a movie coming out though called The Snowman with Michael Fassbender, and it's a thriller. It's a horror thriller, just like I said, it's all in the same vibe as this. And we're getting close to October. It comes out October 20th. Please pay me money for promoting your films. But I mean, because I'm a fan of trailers, but Snowman is sort of like, it's this sort of, it's like Seven, but with sort of a weird, mysterious snowman guy. Like, it's weird, but the point is, like, we're reaching sort of the zenith of like, all right, now we can have a new renaissance of horror. Now we can, because when I was watching It Follows, or even when I was watching It, I'm just like, all right, cool. Like, we have something that we can mine here that isn't just like, okay, we have these 5 teenagers and they see something that they ain't supposed to see, and some dude with a hook is hiding under the bed at the end. It's a high concept there. There's, okay, we have a victim who can't hear, or we have, in Flatliners, you have, these medical students playing with death in a way that isn't, just, okay, we're just gonna do this and be oblivious. There's a concept behind it, so that's what I appreciate about now, and this time that we're living in.
Let's do it. I wanna, 1922 isn't the one about JFK, is it?
No, 1922 is about this guy who has a farm, and his wife is very like upset with the farm life, so she wants to have a divorce. And this crazy dude and his son, they kill the wife and bury her in a well. And basically the story is about how they try to, number one, hide it in 1922, but also deal with the fact that her ghost may or may not be haunting them after that. And like I said, it sounds like your average horrible Stephen King book. And like I said, I'm no fan of Stephen King as a book writer, but I think when he does write, he has something that people can attach themselves to, whether you like it or not. And I think adapting that in Gerald's Game kind of work in this day and age, because otherwise, if you adapted it like a couple years ago, it would have looked like Rose Red. And as much as I like the concept of Rose Red, I think that miniseries and a lot of other Stephen King things don't really pan out. Which, like I said, success of it, success of some of the other things coming out, I think this is a perfect time to have more Stephen King. However, The Dark Tower didn't really go that well, so who knows? Oh yeah, and if you were wondering, Gerald's game is about this wife who got tied up by her husband because they were trying to, you know, spice up the marriage or something, and then like he started acting sort of like weird, and like she was like, all right, untie me, but he had a heart attack, and so she's tied up the whole time with her husband dead. She can't, you know, leave. There's a dog in the house who's like hungry, and you know, just things like that. And then so the aspect of the film that makes it a Stephen King you know, book is sort of a bottle film if you think about it. But the Stephen King aspect is that she, as a child, she learned some astral projecting, so she astral projects herself out of the bed. You know, it sounds weird, but just watch the trailer. It might sell you on it, maybe, who knows. But like I said, it's a perfect time for high concept horror film. You know, instead of just like, okay, well, here's a guy with a knife, run.
Shout out Stephen King, man. What? He got like what? 12 Netflix deals? God, yeah.
Hey, look, man. He's got a lot of movies coming out with his properties. He's got a lot of. I think this was a good year for King, especially with the success of It. It made a lot of money, so I know he's getting kicked back from that. One other thing I want to talk about in terms of trailers or in terms of perspective on it, Tomb Raider. Not so much horror, but I was kind of expecting horror for, you know, this, because this is based on a reboot, right?
Yeah. The 2011 game, is it 2011? Yeah, 2011 game Tomb Raider by Eidos Interactive, published by Square Enix. And the reboot to the franchise was supposed to be, I guess,
they wanted her to get hurt.
It's sort of what we talked about with the films. Yeah, they wanted her to get hurt. It's sort of just like we're talking about with films reemerging. They wanted to take Laura into this practical space. Like, let's show her be fallible and the beginning, the origin story of her journey. And now it's a high concept thing, because now it's not just this chick with the
well, they took away her invincibility aspect, where she had these like perfect body, perfect look, and she was flipping everywhere. And now, like, you flip, you're gonna twist your ankle 90s. And like die or something like that. I mean, I haven't played the game. You played the new one, have you?
Also, yeah, she was perfect 90s action hero, deconstruction of the male action genre. I got it. And then this one, they say, well, let's deconstruct her even further and bring it home. Even in the newest one, now she's a superhero. It's my only thing with these things are the whole, let's remake it into play like Uncharted, or let's make it be more action oriented.
Uncharted is inspired by Tomb Raider, but then Tomb Raider starts taking from Uncharted. You got a problem when you're supposed to be the I guess the leader of your own craft, of your own thing that you invented. You know, it's not a good look to start taking away from, you know, your younger counterparts. It's like Jay-Z start rapping like Lil Uzi. Like, he was like, all right, well, you're supposed to be Jay-Z. Where's your new thing that you do? You know, you're supposed to be trend setting for, you know, the younger generation. I mean, I get it.
You want to be old?
They want to.
He said you rich me or knew you.
Yeah. I like I said, I get it. I understand. They want to make money, so they'll do whatever is making money at the time. But
about this bullshit film, you said money, right?
Yes.
What did it look like to you?
All right, so
that's what I want.
Here's my opinion on the trailer, and it's gonna be pretty harsh because, like, can I throw a little fact at you real quick? So most people will agree, for some reason, I guess it's a part of the internet's consolidarity together, regardless of any of the other films. Like, me personally, I like Doom, but for most people, the best in their minds video game adaptation is Mortal Kombat, the original Mortal Kombat, not, you know, Annihilation, which is technically the worst one, but because it's agreeable.
We haven't had a good game movie since then.
I mean, I'm saying the internet says this. The internet believes this. as a collective, if you ask anyone, people say, well, Mortal Kombat, because like we can't agree on anything else. People can agree on Mortal Kombat. That's neither here or there. My point is, the video game movie that's made the most money out of all of them has been Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider made an exorbitant amount of money with Angelina Jolie. It actually, for me, I didn't know who she was as a kid until the original 2001 Tomb Raider. You know, they had the Taco Bell commercials. I don't know if you remember that, but they had the little Taco Bell tie-in with the toys and things like that. And I'm like, okay, what the world is this? I don't understand with the metal robot things. I don't know what's going on. I remember the video game, all right? I remember flipping around, and I remember, like, you know, just my favorite part of the game wasn't even the game itself. It was the little mini game mansion part, I think, that they had.
The mansion?
Yeah, jumping around the mansion, discovering secret rooms. Like, oh my god, that was like the best part. But like me, I've never beat any of the other games. I've just I've just discovered a lot of things in that little overworld. The mansion overworld. And I don't know, this new film is taking a lot from the they're changing some characters around, but basically it's the same story as the new one, the 2011 video game. However, like, she doesn't look dirty enough. She doesn't look like she really will get down. I mean, like, I like Alicia Vikander. She was in Ex Machina, I think, as the robot girl. But here, like, I don't know, like, there's nothing about her that screams, all right, this is Lara Croft. She's that icon. She just sees, okay, this is this skinny girl, like, from college or something, and she doesn't scare me. She doesn't, like, intimidate me at all. Like, she seems approachable, which I think Lara Croft should always be unapproachable. You should always feel like, all right, she's out of my league. No matter like which version you're talking about, she still should feel like out of your league, not in terms of like looks, but in terms of her attitude. Like, all right, she's thinking about things beyond me. But her, she's like, all right, I can have a coffee or cigarettes with her or something like that. But she's not dirty enough. I know in the video game there's a lot of dirt in her eye. There's, her hair is wet. There's everything. But here is like, I don't know if this set design it's too pretty. You know what I'm saying? It's too gussied up.
Too clean.
Yeah, it's too clean. And
you're
so
in the middle of a jungle and she got makeup on. Like,
it looks very.
Tripping.
Is way more Hollywood than I think I was sold on when they first announced that they were going to take after the new game. When I was expecting something very more, Daredevil, down to earth. Okay, she's actually getting hurt. From what I seen, she wasn't really hurt that much. She was still running around. Not a lot of cuts on her. Just like, dirt here or there. But then in the next scene, there's nothing. And I'm like, okay, well, all right.
CGI traps.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it didn't appeal to me because it wasn't what I don't want to say it wasn't what I expected, but because that's unfair, because I have to judge this for itself. But for what I can see, it's not. She looks like this generic action movie. If I didn't know the property, I'd just be like, all right, well, yeah. Is this Jumanji? Is this another part of the new Jumanji remake? But I don't know. It didn't really appeal to me, but I thought it was interesting that they sort of sold us on something that it didn't turn out to be. Like I said, I don't know what the film will be like, but I have no high hopes for this whatsoever. I'm like I said, and I find it kind of interesting. I would have, taken note of the fact that the original made so much money, and that Angelina Jolie is such a big star that I would have casted someone to either fit in what the video game can feel like, or directed in such a way that it feels more down to earth and like sort of more like a thriller, like we were saying, like a horror thriller, Tomb Raider, with like red font and she's out there like dying. It's like The Revenant. If they made a Tomb Raider film that was like The Revenant mixed with Indiana Jones, I'd be like, Jesus,
bro, that's what the fucking second game was like. It was this, especially because it was in this winter mountains and shit, but that is exactly what I feel like that franchise, the new franchise, is what they're going for. Like, they wanted to feel this struggle. They want you to feel this character who who isn't as weighty. Even in the new and all the supernatural stuff she goes through in the new game. Well, she's always going through that, but like,
I mean, that
there was a weight to. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that's just a given. Like, she's always gonna do something supernatural because, you know, it's Tomb Raider. But I think the word we're looking for is survival. She's a survivalist. So most of the things that she goes through is based on, all right, this is a character that survives. And even in the original, even though she didn't really get hurt or whatever, you still felt like the danger. But that was a whole different type of feel to it. And I think we're past that time a lot in terms of video games. And I don't think that type of thing will work as a movie anymore.
You know, they have scenes of her in the first game fixing broken bones and fucking dealing with the male enemies in the field that are trying to take advantage. Fucking just lots of things that I feel like, and I'm pretty sure you feel like, they could have filmed very visceral, close stuff instead of her dodging CGI traps. That's not. That misses the whole essence of what the new survivalist action.
It's the sad part is that, like, video games are getting so, you know, so very close to life or so close to film that they will have scenes that, like, all right, first things first, they start off, and this will be some of my final thoughts because we're gonna move on soon. But my first thoughts when I was watching the trailer, I seen the shipwreck scene, which is basically what I know the most about. I know, like, the first 30 minutes of the game, and then I know vague concepts of, like, sort of the threats very deep in. But in the game, there was this shipwreck scene that, you know, you do that whole quick time event sort of situation.
Yeah.
But, you know, with all of that, you know, intuitive, okay, you're in a boat and you're crawling out and there's, like, things falling and breaking. It's like the scene in Jaws when the ship is breaking. That's a huge set piece. But in here, like, the boat rocks a little bit and then she jumps off. And I'm like, okay, that was the first telling sign that you want this to be a lot more prettier than what they were thinking about. Because I know in the original games and a lot of the time when she would fall down, she would be like, it sounded like straight up tennis match or something, and I would feel guilty playing the game because I feel like, okay, she's getting hurt or something. And, like, it's not it was interesting. But, like, if they don't have sort of a dynamic like that where you, like, it's like, okay, Jesus, like, are you okay type situation, like, I don't know, like, I'm just looking for something a lot more visceral, a lot more different experience than just, like, her makeup doesn't smear at all the entire time she's out there. She just looks, okay, yeah, I'm cool. What? Like, who is your provider?
Or even, like, throughout the film and the makeup she started with, you start to see it get all screwed up, and then through swimming and all this other stuff, it's gone by the end of the film. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
By the end of the film, she looks like, you know, Charlize Theron. Like, she just, like, just straight up a monster.
That was exactly the course of the first game. Well, the first game in the reboot is she starts off very clean. Her clothes are not tattered or nothing. But as you go through the storyline, she has to put bandages on. She's burned and scarred, and she's cut and dirty. Hair is tattered. She gets visibly worse throughout the game in appearance because she's stuck, first of all, in the middle of the sea somewhere in Japan on a mountain. I don't know. We'll see.
So to move on to our main topic, why aren't you working? A short story about, you know, procrastination, or a short topic, should I say? And I was sort of thinking, because, you know, currently, for a lot of people who don't know, currently I'm writing a movie, you know, in the process of sort of that field. But I've also been, you know, in the middle of writing other things like, you know, comic books and, you know, drawing other things and preparing for a lot of things in my life. So I have sort of a full schedule of things that creative things that I do. And so, you know, you have to ask yourself a question, you know, why aren't you working? Why aren't, you know, why are you giving in to procrastination? You know, what can distract us from, you know, whatever the main topic of what we feel like we're going after is. Why are we distracted? And Sigmund Freud has this concept. It's called the unpleasure and the pleasure theory, or something like that, where like you avoid things that cause you pain, and you gravitate towards things that cause you pleasure. So if you're a creative and you're working and you get distracted, maybe it might be a sign that like your heart truly isn't into your work, and you aren't really truly motivated by what you're working on. Because I've been watching a lot of Harmontown, and Harmontown, for a lot of people who don't know, it's a series by creator of Community and Rick and Morty, Dan Harmon. He has a podcast or a visual show that he does where he'll get on stage and they'll start talking about just things, and it'll generally be funny, but it's a lot of real things, a lot of real emotions come out. And like one of the main things he talks about at one point in time is procrastination. How like at one point in time where he was in control of like a whole show before he got fired from it, he was just procrastinating. He was just like, sitting around, masturbating and all these other things. And, he's saying this for a joke, but he could very well be serious. He's just sitting around not doing anything. And then, when, push comes to shove, like he didn't deliver. He didn't deliver on a thing that like people expected of him. So like he had to, figure out, all right, am I really doing what's making me happy? So like he went out and look, he made Harmontown something that makes him generally happy in a certain degree, and then he ended up making a movie, a Harmontown movie, a documentary about him avoiding responsibility. And then eventually over time Rick and Morty blew up, and look at that season 2, they took so much season 2 actually. This season that's currently airing, him and Justin Roiland took so much time trying to perfect this, or procrastinating on it, that it generally took a lot of their life away. So they felt like a lot of pressure, and they sort of strayed away from what they were trying to get out of this, I guess. What I was saying about Sigmund Freud and the pleasure principle, or the unpleasure pleasure principle, you start to think, okay, well, if he is really into his work, then why isn't he working on it? Why does he have to find these other things? And Dan Harmon was saying at one point in time, sometimes you don't always have to be into those things. And he said, and this is sort of a rough quote, but he said, creativity is like an engine. It's like a piston. There's highs and lows, and an engine only works if there's ups and downs. If you're just going straight, then you might it might end. So if you have lows in your creativity, some days I can draw, some days I can't draw, some days I can write, some days I can't write, some days if I'm an athlete, some days I can do well, and other days like well, maybe I should stay on the bench. It's still the same thing. Like you feel inadequate by what you're doing, so you might avoid it. But at the same time, it's a part of the process of creative people. And I think if you have like a constant pull from that sort of leads you in there, who knows, maybe it might last at the end, maybe it might not. But like I like the idea of what Harmon was saying about the engine, the engine of creativity, being sort of these pistons of highs and lows.
That's fair. I guess I have that thing I do all the time where I'll make a year's worth of beats, and then I'll just be like, I don't want to do this anymore. I make things sporadically, but I kind of just dip out on it. And for me personally, that works, because that low in my creativity and that time I walk away from it allows me to kind of refuel or maybe recharge. I don't know. When you come back, it's like, I'm full of all these creative sound ideas. I want to do beats like this, or I want to put this drums down. I want to work with this person. So you get all that energy comes back.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely agree with that whole piston theory or the piston analogy with that.
I was just gonna interject that sometimes for people like us who have multiple things, it's not just one thing. Because this is sort of a tangent even for myself, but if you're a writer and you just write and you find, okay, well, I'm tired of writing, and you really have no other outlets to put that other that tiredness into your because you start all right, let me just sit on the couch, let me just like watch TV, and then time is burning, your hours are burning, and then next thing you know, you wasted an entire 2 months, and you only now you're rushing to I think this can apply to a lot of people if you're in high school or college or something like that, and you have an assignment, and you feel like, okay, well, I want to write a rap with my group partners in this project or something. Basically, we'll do our entire presentation in a rap form, and then but it's like due in like 5 months. Some people will wait till the last 2 months to get the project done, and it'll be good. Because me personally, I work under pressure. Like, I think if the pressure's on, I do beautiful work. That's sort of like where like my field is. But to go back, I really think that if you have multiple things to fall back on, if you're not just that one guy, you just, okay, I just write, or okay, if you get tired of what you do and you have nothing else to fall back on, like I don't know how to help that. Because like I said, for me and you, I could be sitting here and I can draw, or if I'm not drawing, I can I can write, or if I'm not writing, I could be making a beat. If I'm not making a beat, I can be writing again. I have this wheel of things that I can just hop into, and it's sort of a creative what do you call it? Sort of a creative tool belt of things where if one thing isn't working, or if I'm having a block in one part of my life, I can always go to the next thing, and maybe that will be something else, and multiple outlets.
You know what though? You said earlier there's that unpleasure, and I noticed that a lot too, just personally, where say writing or working in music or something like that, and the enjoyable part might be, hey, I get to put these kicks down, I might get to put these snares down, or put this drum pattern down, and then you get to something that you're maybe not so much familiar with, like chord progressions and stuff like that, and then you're like, man, I'm just gonna not make this beat altogether because I'm not getting the sound that I want. Or it happens to writers too, like, oh, that happens to me for sure, like the scene isn't coming out the way I want, maybe I need to just walk away. Do you think that pushing through those things is good?
Well, all right, speaking from personal experience,
pushing through that,
yeah, speaking from personal experience, I can say that I'm writing right now, and there's lows in my writing where, like, I can feel like, okay, I have artist block. And some people might say, okay, artist block is a sign, getting a block is, okay, that's a sign to stop, take a break, do that. But, that for me, that will lead into procrastination, into, something that, I would end up just not working at all. So I think working through that it's good, but like you get into that unpleasure where you're just forcing it because you, in your mind, you're telling yourself, okay, don't procrastinate, you have to get this done, and you're forcing it, and it's crap. But I think it's sort of what they say in film, you gotta film through, even if you can see that all right, well, we're filming it, and this is going bad, or we're putting on a play and this must go bad, but the show must go on at some point because there's a mandate. I was saying earlier this week that there's a certain time for a creative is that there's certain signs that, like, all right, you should be stopping, or you should just try to be working through this. And if you have a block or artist block or something like that, you have to be able to work through that. Because it's a creative doesn't really see his job as, a job. It's sort of something that he loved, and he turned it into something that he can get paid for, because payment is now sort of the influence for him doing it. And it helps, because imagine if this was a hobby. Imagine if I was doing this for the freeze, and I didn't have any goals towards this. I was just doing it just to do it. I would eventually get tired of it, and then I would quit. But having that goal, turning it into a job, it keeps it keeps it going. It's like, all right, this is a mandate. Which, I mean, for some people it might turn into that unpleasure, that pain of like having to go back and write and it's like, okay, I'm tired of this script, I'm tired of this just drawing or something. But once again, not to keep going on and on, but in my personal experience, I can see that, like, when I get tired of writing, and then I'm like, okay, let me just hop on a beat, or let me just try to make a beat real quick, and then maybe I'll just hop back on the writing. I go down this rabbit hole with this beat, and then I'm like, okay, I produced a whole track, but I'm not even liking where this track is going. So it becomes this bleed out of this unpleasure of creativity, and I might even hop on on the pencils and start drawing something, and even that won't work. And so it's like, okay, well, what's going on? Maybe it's like an emotional thing where, like, I can't even my outlets are having blocks, like consecutive blocks between them. And then I go back to writing, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe if I just push through this, it'll work.
That makes sense. I feel like too, you have to kind of get out the crap, if that makes sense. Like, even the horrible stuff you don't feel so good about has to come out, because it's like squeezing through a tube of toothpaste or something like that, I guess. Like, you're gonna get the flow you want, and then eventually you're gonna be like, fuck, I need a new tube. So you have to get it out. It's we call it detoxing sometimes, when you're trying to get rid of bad poisons or toxins in the body. You just got to kind of get that release, and then the better stuff, you can fall into like that slump where it's like, I'm not gonna do nothing, like, fuck it, nothing's good. But pushing through that and just getting the crap out, I think, is good. I tell artists in the studio all the time, like, just record it. Don't think about how you're doing it or nothing, because if you just say it over and over and over, eventually you're going to get the take.
I mean, a lot of people would sit in like a studio or something and be like, or like, it's just, I guess it's like the common writing thing where, like, say like George R.R. Martin, he's looking for inspiration. Like, he'll write and they'll stop it. Like, man, I think he had a conversation with Stephen King at one point in time, and he was like, hey, how do you put out all of these books? Like, how do you keep, ties back into Stephen King, but he was like, how do you keep putting out all these books? Because I'll take 6 months and only have 20 pages, and and then you can put out like a whole novel within that same 6 months. And Stephen King had to tell me, I just do it. I just make it work. I just try to not wait for the right moment and just keep doing it. And then in art they call it working subtractively, where like you just do it, know it might be bad, but just correct. Because I feel like, for me, I think it's easier to correct something that's bad than to invent something that you think might be good. So I mean, yeah, I guess it's I have a stronger sense of criticism than I have of creation. So if I can criticize myself to the point where I can fix what I think is wrong with something I put out, then yeah, sure, like, definitely, I think that's sort of a way to get over, like, okay, I have a block, I can't put anything out. Well, I'll put something down and then I'll correct it. That's sort of a different way of working subtractively. And I do that with art. So if I'm writing or if I'm drawing, I'll work subtractively. I'll draw a lot of stuff, and then I'll take away parts. And then also with writing, blocks and blocks of dialogue, blocks of scenes, and then start taking parts away, taking away scenes, taking away characters and things like that. and just try to make it work together.
Scale down.
Yeah.
But we're lucky in that because we can do that in this day and age. 20 years ago, you couldn't easily scale down. You had to we film this movie for 2 years. yeah. Oh, I gotta rewrite the whole thing.
Jesus Christ. You get on a typewriter.
Cutting in the recording studio. Cutting 2-inch tape. I'm talking about you sitting there. If you fuck up your whole if you fuck up one part of your verse, that's the whole 2-inch tape, and the 2-inch tape is expensive. So you gotta then take out that roll of tape, get this dude back in the booth, have him spit that verse for verses about 1 minute 30 seconds, track the tape out, cut it evenly, stitch it. Like nobody got time. And then it's an album or a whole movie you're editing like this.
Oh my god!
Oh shit, man.
Now the reel is even worse because you got the glue. You have to glue all your your negatives together, and you're like, oh Jesus Christ! Like Christopher Nolan and Tarantino still use film like that. They still do the glue and blah blah blah. And he's got to be some type of master to do that in this day and age, and still put out something that is coherent. Because I think a lot of these digital cats, I don't think they can do something like that. Me, I know when talking about procrastination, I will not have the patience to do that menial work. But like I said, I'm the type of person that if it comes down to it, I'll do anything. But the film, music, writing, they had the typewriter. Once again, Christopher Nolan still uses the typewriter. I think he's just like an old soul. He's just an old
yeah
soul. He doesn't even have a cell phone. He has I think he recently bought a cell. He finally has a cell phone because I think his daughter has a cell phone. But he just had a landline, dude. Like he just landlines and typewriters, and like if you make a mistake, you gotta write all of that all over again, or I don't know, just a whole page you have to redo. Oh my god, so many rewrites.
In that you could easily, you had no choice but to fight through your slump, right? You had to, whatever shit came out, you had to just live with it and do it over or correct it.
Yeah,
you said earlier.
And we have far more distractions nowadays too. I could sit here and then something will go on and I'm like, oh well, let me just go do this, or let me just go goof off for 2 hours or something like that. Who knows? But there's so many different things that just fall into where you're just like, oh well, like I said, when you get into that segment for it, the pleasure and unpleasure, you don't.
How do you get out of that then? What is the thing that keeps you on track then with all the distractions?
Well, I'll spin it to you in like a totally opposite direction. Sometimes I have zero distractions. Sometimes I will want something to distract me or free me from what I have to do. Because I mean, where I work is relatively quiet. There's not a lot of things that can necessarily distract me. So sometimes I would like to have music playing when I'm drawing, or music playing when I'm writing. If it's too quiet, I think it takes away from me. I can't really work in silence too hard because it breaks me down because I'm just rattling around in this silence. So maybe I might turn a television on and try to not distract myself, but have some type of other narrative for me to latch onto, and then I'll just say, okay, go back to what I'm doing, and then I might look up, okay, something's going on, okay, that's interesting, something to think about, get something swirling, because you're by yourself, you have no questions to answer for yourself. I mean, if you're fully optimized, realized type person, but if you have stress and things in your life, you'll just focus on that and you won't really focus on your work. So if you have other things out there that can distract you, well, not distract you, but sort of aid in not leaving you alone with your own mind, I guess that's sort of my fear, personal fear, is just being this quiet, alone situation where I need something moving in my life.
Kind of your own vacuum.
Yeah.
Airtight vacuum or no sound, just in your own head. I can see that. I like music sometimes for that. One of the things I really like to do is read before I write or something like that, just to kind of get into a headspace. But I was going to ask you, so do you think, I for one don't believe in it, but do you think writer's block exists, or any kind of creative block?
I think honestly, any blocks we do to ourselves, but we have no idea where it comes from. For example, writer's block is like, let me tell you, and here's a perfect example. We're not quite to our hypothetical section yet, but just throw out we're pretty close. Here's sort of a hypothetical of like a real life hypothetical. So say I'll be writing a scene for the movie, and I'll get to a scene where there's a conflict, and I have to think about what comes next. In writing, and all of this is coming out of you have to pull that from somewhere. You have to pull where the next thing is coming from. You know what is supposed to happen, but how it's going to happen, you have to figure that out. That's sort of like an artist gambit or artist game that you have to play with yourself. And when I'm drawing, it's sort of the same way, where sort of my artist block will come from skill level. Like I feel like I'm not at a skill, or this doesn't look anything like what I want it to, and I'm trying to force that out of myself. Like, all right, like I have to make this work. I have to make this style work, or try to figure out this angle. And I'll have reference, I'll have everything that I need to, like, okay, this is supposed to help me, this is supposed to pull me out of that block. I have a whole mood board full of information that I could pull from as an artist to aid where I want to go. But is it real? Yes and no. Like I said, we do it to it's not real, but it's sort of more psychological. It's more like something that we do to ourselves to help us get through. I don't think it's a block per se, but it's more of a how like sometimes you'll have a dream about something that's supposed to help you. Like I'll have a dream about a dog, and the dog will like be carrying a street sign, like a stop sign or something, in its mouth, and I'm like, what does that mean? And that's like all amalgamation of my mind during my sleep, trying to help me out and help me figure out what's going on. So like I'll be writing or something, and I'll sit back and I'm like, wow, I don't know where the scene is going. So I have to sit back, listen to some music, let myself go and to that place where I need to be in terms of the narrative, to get to that. And maybe I won't get there how I want to get there, and so you'll call that a block, you'll call that a writer's block, you'll call that an artist block or something like that. And music is the same way, where like I'm trying to get a certain melody, and this is not working. I gotta put it down. It sounds awful.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I definitely want to know if any of the listeners, what their how are some of the ways you guys circumvent those blocks as creatives? Because everybody's method is different. I think it's interesting. Some people might drink tea, or somebody might put incense on.
Fidget spinner.
Jam. Fidget spinner or something. Real shit.
Yeah.
It's funny, but do what you got to do to get the work done. I think ultimately we're asking the question of how do you finish? How do you reach the finish line?
Hypothetically, why aren't you working? Like, why aren't you getting to the top of your potential? Why aren't you and these are questions you're asking yourself, and you're getting upset. You're looking at yourself, just like, man, why aren't I getting this done? Why aren't I finishing this thing to the best of my ability? How come I keep getting distracted? How come I have this feeling of unpleasure for something that I'm supposedly supposed to love? And why do I keep running away from the responsibility of finishing? And for me, I can just say it's not that I don't love it. Is that this is it. I'm upset with myself because I can't fulfill my love in a way that is satisfactory to myself. You know what I'm saying? You get to a point, you'll write something and you love writing, but you're upset with yourself because the writing isn't coming out how you want, or the art isn't coming out how you want, or the song sounds like it's trash or something. Whatever you do that you love doing. Say you're my little brother is a running back for a university, and he's like, all right, well, like, you know, I feel upset with myself if I can't, get in some yards. Yeah, I was like, all right, this is something I love, and why can't I be able to do this to the best of my ability? Why am I having this block, this metaphorical or real block that's going on? Why does this exist, and what can we do about it?
Right, what's stopping you from reaching the finish line? And you say something about your brother, which kind of clicked in my head. Like, I never thought about it in sports because it's physical. I mean, drawing and things are physical too, but basically what we do has to get with our encapsulating emotion and experience onto a piece of paper or a certain medium. But here you are as a sports person. What's the block for you first, like psychologically, and then how do you supersede that? Do you just do it by playing the game? Do you work out? Like those are a whole nother side of this spectrum that I'm not familiar with.
Essentially, let me put it to you like this: I'm overweight. All right. I mean, not
like people who
this is a hypothetical. I'm not really overweight, but hypothetically, I'm overweight. I'm upset with how I'm looking. I'm people are calling me lazy, this, that, and the third, and these are things that are motivating me to make it a change in my life. And so day one, I make this mandate to myself. Okay, I will get skinny by the time I turn 26 or something. And I'm like, okay, before I turn 26, I'm going to spend this entire year working out. And day one, I get these workouts. I'm like, okay, this is hard. I don't really know exactly what to do. And, not knowing what to do, I'll stop and like, all right, let me just go on the internet and try to figure out what I can do to, what exercises work. You get this list, you compile it out, and you're like, okay, well, I just do these things. We get to day 5, and I'm not even working out today. I was like, well, what's one day? They always say when you do this, or you make any type of resolution or some type of thing like that, you always have this what's called a cheat day. And your cheat day is inevitable. No matter what you're doing, whether it's a diet or working on a new project, you'll have a day where you won't work on it like you want to work on it. It's sort of a implied procrastination day. And so if you let that day defeat you, if you let yourself keep doing that day over and over, okay, I'm going to stop doing this, and then you just keep doing it, and you're like, okay, well, dang, like now I'm overweight and I'm 26 and I didn't accomplish anything because I gave up. And I think you shouldn't. Giving up is the antithesis of what you wanted. You got into this because you wanted to, once again, hypothetically, you were overweight and you wanted to lose, some pounds. You wanted to feel better about yourself, ideally. Not that it was going to fix anything, but you just wanted to feel better about yourself by losing that weight and accomplishing something. You wanted to write that book. You wanted to make that song. You wanted to, draw something cool. And sort of you have your cheat day, and you let your cheat day kill you. You let that procrastination turn into a habit of procrastination instead of just I don't know, breaking out of it. And it's way, way easier to say, okay, well, why aren't you just doing this? Why aren't you just working? Why aren't you just, But you really have to ask yourself, what's keeping me from doing this? Why do I keep running away? Is it because it's hard? Is it because it's something I don't know? Is it because I'm uninformed and I want to be informed, and by the time I get informed, I'm already demotivated to work again?
Yeah, I was thinking about that as you were saying it, because in retrospect, when you have to go and do something, I noticed that the worst sort of situations are for people who are just starting whatever it is, because you are in that space. There's that learning curve, and you haven't even got to the first crux of that curve where you get between what I know and how I'm executing. So there's that. If you could picture a graph, it's what I know about what I'm trying to do, how I'm succeeding at that. And somewhere as a startup, you don't know, so therefore you can't go on the other side of it, of how to do it. So some people stop right there, like, I don't know what to do, so they don't do it. Or they'll start, and then, like you said, get demotivated after cheat day, because then it becomes cheat day 2, cheat day 3.
I mean, essentially, what everybody needs is maybe someone outside of themselves who can motivate them. Because if you rely on yourself,
positive reinforcement.
Mm-hmm. And there's also not to, because there's positive reinforcement and then there's negative reinforcement. And when people hear the word negative, they're thinking like, okay, well, you're thinking about that's not what you're thinking about. What you're thinking about is punishment. This is reinforcement, which means you want something to stick by either adding something, which positive reinforcement, you're giving someone sort of a reward, or a negative reinforcement, you're taking something away. So meaning you have a habit or something that you don't like, you get negative you have negative reinforcement to turn that habit into something that you want to be taken away. So technically it's you want a negative reinforcement of these habits. You want something to take away your procrastination. And like I said, once again, to go back to when I first started, not all forms of procrastination is a bad thing. If walking away from a project for a little bit can help clear your mind of what you're doing, stepping back from the the piece of art that you've been huddled up against for an hour or so might give you the perspective to see that, like, your perspective is off. Like, the nose is, the whole face is not looking good. Like, you just have to step back sometimes and take a look at it. So not all forms of procrastination is bad. However, when you start making that a habit, or when you start not accomplishing anything, then you got to start asking yourself, can I have someone outside of this really motivate me to work how I want to work?
Or are there internal motivators or other triggers that help motivate, like sometimes having a good system, or just getting in the practice, more specifically just getting into the practice of doing. I think whether you're doing it right or wrong, just doing it. I suck at sit-ups hypothetically, but just doing it, getting into the habit of doing it, like, fuck it, I'm going to do that. What's that thing inside or outside, externally or internally, that helps you reinforce yourself to keep trying?
When you exercise, it's supposed to hurt. Like, the hurting is that means it's working. So if you exercise until your body hurts, or you're working until, like, you're tired or something, that means, like, you did something. That means you actually worked. That means you got something done. Even if you feel like, oh, well, I'm not seeing the results right away, once again, to go back to our instant gratification talk, we're in a field where we want to see results pretty quickly. Like, as an animator, I have to learn to be patient and not just like, okay, I'm not just going to see the whole film in one day. There's elements to it where, like, today I'll break down a notch of what I want to get done from that. Even as a writer, you're not going to see the whole pyramid in one day. You got to break it down, and you got hella time to, like, get it done. But it's how you use that time. It's like, all right, well, you're a kid or something. One of these listeners is a kid, or a teenager. You're gonna be out here and someone's gonna give you an assignment. And you're gonna be like, well, it's due on the November 22nd, and today is September 22nd. I'm not gonna, I can have all the time in the world. And then once it gets to the last minute, you're like, oh, well, I want to see your bibliographies in October. And you're like, for your project that I told you to write. Oh, right, that thing that I forgot that I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm supposed to have this in October, but you said the deadline was November, so you forgot that you were supposed to be working on it and leading up to, finishing it. And
milestones.
Yeah, right. So, but like I said, if there was a way to set up a system of that reinforcement, say like a la Rat Trap, for like, do people know Rat Trap? Is that like a popular thing, or is that just from the 90s? Well, if you're unfamiliar with Rat Trap is this game where, Like, you just set up all of these things to capture this rat. All you have to do is just drop I think it's like a marble or something, or a ball into like this thing, and it sets off its entire set of, mechanical gizmos to catch something. Like, you see a lot in Tom and Jerry, where Tom or Jerry will set up something that will be it'll be convoluted, but like the goal is all of these things work in tandem to make you do something, and it's automated. So if you set up sort of a rat trap set of support for yourself, where like, okay, you have this system of, okay, I call my best friend at this time of the day, and they ask me this question, okay, have you done this and that today? And you're like, oh yeah I have, because you're supposed to do that, because when you talk to them you do it. Like, if you have a dog, I wake up at 7, I walk my dog, I do this, and then by the time I finish my dog, I should be, my coffee should be done, so I get the coffee, blah blah blah. You know what I'm saying? Like, these are things, not necessarily a strong straight up rat trap mechanical situation where you have like you pull a string when once you hit your snooze button and you pull a string, like a whole set of things sort of like navigate you to your work every day, like in the Jetsons. But like we're talking about like setting up things in your life to help motivate you or reinforce things that you're supposed to be doing. And having if you're sitting in your office and you look up, and right behind your computer is a poster of, like, I don't know, David Hasselhoff, and at the bottom of the picture it says, "Why aren't you working?" Something simple like that might it might help you out.
That was my desktop wallpaper for 2 years. It was like it was David no, I'm fucking with you. But it was the eye thing, when you did eye test, where you have to like cover your eye and read the letters and shit, but the big Y at the top, and then it goes down in the pyramid, and it said Y or W, why are you, or no, it says you should be working now.
Yeah.
And it would be on my desktop for about 2 years, and every day I had to look at that and be like, yo, what do you do? What are you getting done? So having 3 immediate goals that you can finish in the next 5 to 10 minutes subsequently, smaller goals to lead to the bigger one. So like, oh, I got to draw a portrait. Well, today I'm going to start with the grass. I'm sure our artists and you know about that with long-term projects.
Right. I think they say the optimum hours to be working on something is about 4 to 5 hours a day on something, specifically something. And you like, okay, cool. Like, I'll work on this about 4 to 5 hours. And if you're in college or something, that's unreasonable for an assignment. You just honestly don't have the time to spend or quote unquote waste 4 hours on one thing. Like, you have about seven classes, 6-7 classes to work on in high school and in college. So it might not work as easier as when you're a professional or a working professional, but devoting some type of time to it, or like you're just like, all right, this is just the time for this, and I'll work on this, and then after this, some people say, having that reward, okay, I'm gonna work on this, and after this I can eat. When you have a job, you're looking at the clock. You was like, all right, I clock out at this time, and then I can do this. And, my favorite show comes on at 8, but I'm still stuck at work because I cannot clock out until I finish this thing. So it motivates you to finish the thing.
Schoolboy Q, he doesn't eat before a performance. So after he performs, that's kind of like a motivation for him, is to perform, do his couple hours on stage or hour and a half or whatever, and then go eat a nice meal. I think that's respectable, right? You got finished doing that. And I also wanted to say, dedicating time to decompression or dedicating time to rest is also a good way to kind of motivate. It's a concept of, I guess, the procrastination day, but reducing it to like an hour or a couple of hours. You just sit down and meditate or whatever. I don't mean like sitting down and watching a whole 3 episodes of
Narcos,
Law and Order or some shit. Yeah,
whatever it is.
I mean, like really just dedicating time to no distractions and decompression. No phone.
Yeah, and
Hey, I'm gonna have this time to myself. Maybe take a shower.
Truth is,
something.
Free time is so like for creatives it's so rare, especially when you're in a business for yourself. There's technically you're never not on the job. When you have a business,
exactly.
When you're business for yourself, you're always on duty. So it's sort of harder to say, okay, well, I'm off right now, I won't answer my phone. But you're in business for yourself. Like me personally, I'm in business for myself in a certain degrees, and so I would have to answer my phone at all times. I would have to be available for this thing over here, and address my schedule concerns, because I'll constantly be having to deal with something that is work related. There's no off button. I mean, the concept of free time is it's rare, but you have to have it, or else you're going to be sitting up there wanting free time while you're working, and that's the worst time to want to, I don't know, go to the beach when you're sitting and looking at a wall of a blank, the enemy of everybody, a blank page. An artist, a writer, a musician, the blank page is your enemy. Like your idea is to fill that with something.
Well, nowadays they're just calling blank spaces art now. So I don't know, man. This day and age is changing shit. You can present a sculpture that took you 2 minutes to make, and all of a sudden.
Hey
it's
man,
high art.
Hey, but if it took him 2 minutes to make it though, if it took him 2 minutes to make it though, and he did 4 years in college though, he took them skills, bruh. It gave him the ability to make that in 2 minutes. Respect that.
The wherewithal. I feel it. Respect. I put some respect on his grind. I feel you.
Right.
Put some respect on that degree. I feel it. I just know that 10,000 hour rule too.
Yeah.
100 hours, whatever. But yeah, that time, especially for us entrepreneurs and like working for yourself and stuff like that, you have to have, there's no cheat day. You have to have that hour or that 2 hours that you fucking, and it's a job in itself to like, all right, I'm not going to do anything for 2 hours. It's hard because you're like, man, I got to do this. The phone might ring or the email might come in, and then you're thinking about what they might want. It's gotten to the point for me where I have to kind of make my relax or chill moments something to do with my work, where it's like, oh, I'm chilling at this ice cream thing right now. Maybe I can write an article about that, or maybe I can reach out for them for sponsorship later.
Right.
And you're chilling, like having dinner.
And me, my main passion is movies. So I turn all the knowledge that I get from watching, films, which I love, just watching films, good films, bad films. I just like watching film. I just like breaking down film. So if I can turn that into something like an idea or something, I'm not just wasting my time or like, blowing away my day watching a film. I'm learning from this. I'm taking this and applying this to something else. So like I've turned something that I love doing into a pastime that is in between me creating something and also enjoying myself.
I don't know, man. Why aren't they working? We've given 101 reasons why you should be. And it could be fun too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be fun. Positive reinforcement, having awesome people around you who understand that too.
Negative reinforcement. Get rid of those habits, man. You gotta start focusing. And nobody wants to be told to focus. Nobody wants to be told to like, all right, like, because once again, these are my final thoughts per se. Go back to that example about being overweight. You gotta, if you're overweight and you're in a situation where you're like, okay, well, I don't know anything, find somebody who knows something so they can teach you every step of the way. If a personal trainer will go a long way all these things. Well, I don't want to do a personal trainer because I don't want to embarrass myself, blah blah blah. Then I don't know if you really want this per se, but you have to do everything it takes to get to, you know, where you want to be at, if you really want to be there, or if you just misunderstand exactly what you want out of a situation. Like, I could say, okay, I want to be a writer, I want to write a movie, but like you discover in that point, it's like, oh, well, I don't want to write movies, I just want to, you know, watch movies. Oh, okay, then, you know, find a way to make that like your thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to stop trying to delude yourself into like doing what sort of is causing you displeasure, and you're thinking that that's what you really want. Like I said, to go back to the overweight person. Yeah, go back to the overweight person. If you really wanted to be, you know, if it was making you sick, you know, if you had a disease or something that it's like, so you're getting heart disease at this point, and you want to, you know, lose some weight, or you want to feel better about yourself, in a healthy way. You don't even have to be skinny or a supermodel looking. You just have to get down to a reasonable weight for yourself and help yourself out. And you need motivation for that. So once again, you have your cheat day, but it's regimented. You know which day you can feel that way. So what you're doing is you're working towards the goal of being able to have a cheat day, but not turn that cheat day into like, okay, I'm gonna go overboard. You still know what your goal is. You still know you have to get out there. You have to turn that into something that you also, once again, like we said, something that you care about, and that adheres to your ultimate goal. You're not going so far away, you know, you're not distracting yourself with something that's so far away from what you want that, you know, you're doing a disservice to yourself. Like, if your whole job was to, I don't know, like plan a wedding, and you're procrastinating, and like you're doing everything but, you know, looking at wedding stuff, or, you know, if you really like wedding stuff, you know, surround yourself with that type of a thing, and that will only add to your ideas of what's going on. If you're writing a movie, you know, like I said, watch movies, get some ideas from movies. If you're drawing something and you don't think that you have the skills, watch drawing tutorials, get a mentor, somebody to show you some things like that, whether it be online on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, whatever you need to do to get that inspiration out there. That's what you got to do if you really want to get to it. Don't do things that you know, that you feel like is hurting you too much, because once again, the unpleasure, you're going to run away from it. You're going to run towards the things that are pleasurable to you. And if you find yourself running away to something that's pleasurable to you but is an antithesis of what you want, then you have to realize that you have to give that up. You have to go on to, you know, find something that you do love doing.
Yeah, gotta develop healthy systems. And I think there's a method or a system for everybody, right? Like,
I guess.
Positive one. For me, when I wanted to write books years ago, it was books. But then I realized 80,000 words might not be the thing that helps me portray what I'm trying to portray. So I like more immediacy. So scripts work for me. I feel like I can tag certain things in. I don't need to go long form. That was what it was for me. So everybody sort of has to find their own system.
Yeah, most definitely.
That's it. Get to work. Execute.
No, you know, you out here,
go work, man.
You out here on this podcast, listeners, to tell you go work. It's like, yeah, man, I spend a lot of time, you know, listening to these guys tell me about, you know, losing weight or you know, getting to work. But, you know, I'm not really gonna get to work. I'm just gonna listen to people tell me to get to work. You know, that's also a form of procrastination too. Like, once again, when I was talking about like these things, the things that can help you, it can also hurt you. Like, you could sit up here watching videos about, oh yeah, you know, I lost weight by doing this and this, and you're not taking any of that down. You're just like spending your time looking at other people. Like, you just enjoy watching other people succeed more than you want to succeed yourself. It's like you want to look at art tutorials all day but not apply anything that, you know. So you just don't waste your time is basically the point. Don't waste your time. That was basic control.
Get to work, everybody.
The show where we effectively break down various forms of media into relatable context, basically give the control back to the viewers. My name is Aaron Ray, aka The Boss Rating, on social media. Feel free to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and ArtStation. As for my co-host Adrian, where can the people find you?
At 80K Lives on the internet working somewhere.
Right.
If you see me in person in San Francisco or in the Bay Area, it's probably more than likely going to be work related.
If you see me in the street, you don't know me. Follow us on Facebook at Probably Guys Attack. Subscribe to us on YouTube at PG Attack. Or email us at pgattack@gmail.com. Any questions, comments, hypotheticals, or advice you would like to see addressed on the show. If you are procrastinating by listening to this show, I applaud you. Please tell us what you're procrastinating on, and we'll probably give you some advice about what you should do, very specific advice about what you should do. And, you should be working. You should be working right now. Just go away. Screw.